tired.
Because you're tired.
I'll speak up. Anybody else? Teacher. I know all the answers.
Okay, now let me ask you something. If I were to graph, instead of worrying about our splits, okay, if I were to graph our perceived effort, so like how much it hurts, what do you think that would look like?
Hi.
What I would offer to you is that our perceived effort would probably start off fairly low, and then it would hit a plateau for a while, until right around when you started seeing us really start to break up our snatches and cleans. Then the perceived effort probably rises like this, and probably goes like that at the very end, which is why for the last 30 seconds, Tony pushed himself and Katie till we were out on the floor. Okay, so the whole point of this is that you got to understand how your workout's going to look in terms of your times, but you also have to understand what your workout's going to look in terms of your perceived effort. And you've got to gauge that perceived effort so you don't give too much too early, okay? Ideally, and some of this was dictated a little bit by the rope, but not all of it. Ideally, what you're going to see is you're going to see, in terms of splits, you're going to see something fairly low up front, and then it's going to rise a little bit, and then somewhere around the 3-minute mark, it's going to hit a plateau for a while. And then the splits are going to get a little bit longer, and then the last one, you're going to throw it all out there until you go down a little. I think that's what you saw here. And then ideally, this is what you're going to see for perceived output, is it's really easy, then it hits a point where you're struggling at a fairly sustained rate, but then things are going to start to shake, and the chassis is going to fall apart, and then you're really going to have to amp it up in the end, and the very end for your red line. Okay? So that's what we're going to talk about here. All right, so talking about a couple of principles here. Then we're going to put it into action. So, number one is that, bottom line, the whole point of CrossFit is to do the most work output you can as efficiently as possible. So when you're planning your workout, you want to plan so you don't blow your wad. What does that mean? It means you redline too early, and then your body stops working efficiently because it needs to cool itself down. It needs to flush lactic acid. It needs to tire and rest a little bit. Okay, so you stop outputting at the most efficient level. All right. If you're going really hard, and then early in the WOD, you push yourself to your absolute limit, your body's going to stop working efficiently. It's going to go into shutdown mode. You want to save that point to the very end, okay? Just like the perceived effort graph, okay? That's the whole point. Don't blow your WOD. It's also fun to say. All right. Now, so into a little bit of science about it, okay? Your body has these things called energy systems, okay? It's how your body brings energy, out of the depths of your person and makes you do work, okay? So Katie, who's less smarter than I am, is going to talk to you real quick about energy systems and what it means for planning a workout.
You can breathe.
We're going to start calling Katie Champ now. Level 1. You're getting through again.
I'm just glad I can have a friend for it right now.
Did you sweat?
I'm not going to really talk a whole lot about energy systems because most of you are probably at least a little familiar, but if I go into the depths, you'll probably be bored because it is boring. To me, it's not, but basically 3 things you really need to know when it comes to energy systems. Should I just do it down here?
Yeah.
He's like, don't waste my time.
You have 3 energy systems. The first one, I'm going to punch you. I'm going off the first energy system because it's a very short burst of energy. It's a very powerful burst of energy. So the first one only takes up to about 20 seconds. So think 3, 2, 1, go. The first 20 seconds, if you're doing like a shuttle sprint, you're gonna work off of that first phosphocreatine energy system. And so that's why if you do a 400-meter run, if you're going all out and you're in the first 20 seconds, you're gonna feel awesome. And then you hit around 20 seconds to upwards of a minute to 2 minutes. And that's when you run into the glycolytic. Shorten that. If you're going all out, it's upwards of up to about 1 to 2 minutes. Okay? So that's where you hit that second energy system. The third energy system is basically what you're doing when you're sleeping or you're comatose. It's oxidative. So you could run on that forever because it comes out of your fat stores. So any adipose tissue is used basically for anything that's easier than these two. I want to put it kind of crudely. So anywhere up to 2 and beyond, I think marathons. And this is an unlimited supply, oxidative. So what this means is basically, you were talking here about energy output a little bit. What this means is that if you go, let's say you have a 10-minute workout, okay? You go hard out the gate, you guys know what that feels like. Shoot, I went too not too soon. So you used up your first energy system in about 20 seconds. That's okay, that's normal. You're supposed to do that. You have your next energy system. That's what you sort of think of it as a hybrid. So you can produce a lot of energy in this second energy system. It basically depends on the amount of effort you put into it. So the amount of intensity. So you can sort of meet in the middle, put moderate amount of intensity and get moderate amounts of length that you can spread that out. Or you can put lots, sort of reach a little higher and put a little bit more effort, but that's going to last you a little bit less time. Now that's common sense. So what does that mean basically? It means that once you get past those 20 seconds, and let's say you're in that 10-minute workout, that means maybe don't go all out here, and maybe conserve so that this part right here, you put towards the beginning, right? So that you end up conserving so you can lengthen. Get rid of this piece right here, and you can lengthen your glycolytic energy system. So you don't have to go into oxidative, because what that means to go into oxidative, and these do overlap a little bit, but I'm speaking crudely. So if you go into oxidative when you're in a 10-minute AMRAP, that means that you basically depleted this. You went too high intensity, and you shortened the amount that you could go into this middle ground here. And that means that this now gets truncated. You've used your most efficient energy system, right? And now you're going into oxidative, and you're going slower. So you can nutshell that basically to mean bookend this the opposite, conserve in the middle, find that pace where you feel like if your red line is here, right, and this is sleep, okay? Let's say this is like jog run pace. You want to find about, let's say, to put it in easy terms, let's say if I can do 10 unbroken wall balls, instead of doing 10 unbroken wall balls at red line pace, why don't you do 7 unbroken wall balls and split that up here so that you're staying at a steady state and conserve so that at the end, instead of going here, you can take your glycolytic and spread it out even more. That takes practice. That's the art form of it a little bit, of knowing where your body can go. That's the art, I think, is kind of what you're referring to. But the science of it is getting your splits, knowing, okay, I did this workout 3 weeks ago, based on all the elements that make you better at this here, sleep, nutrition, blah, 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 stress, then I shouldn't have a crappy workout today. So based on everything else going right, if you have your splits from 3 weeks ago, which is why having a plan is so effective, you now have science to base what your performance should look like. So let's say you have this workout that we just did again, you write down splits, you're looking at the clock while you're doing it. So that's one way you can approach it. Sometimes that can be too cerebral, gets in your head, it's too much to think about. But that's one way you can sort of track how you're being efficient with your energy systems. A more effective athlete can recover quickly. They can stay in this longer, and they can be more intense and stay in that intensity for a lot longer period. And they can reproduce that. That's it.
So here's my idiot's version of that. Okay. On a workout, on a typical workout, if I'm planning my splits, if my first split right out the gate is about a minute. Okay, let's just use it as a baseline for any given workout. Let's say I did whatever it was first set in a minute. Okay, it's gonna feel great. It's gonna feel fairly effortless. Okay, somewhere around the minute 30 to 2 minute mark, I'm gonna have to plan that my efficiency level has dropped, and my splits are gonna go somewhere around 1.5 of that. So if it's minute splits, usually they're gonna go to about 130. Okay, I usually plan for a 50% increase in the amount of time because I'm more tired and I'm using a different energy system. Usually somewhere around the 8-minute mark for me, sometimes the 8 to 10-minute mark, you'll get even worse at that. Okay, that's just something I found out. And that doesn't necessarily make sense for me, like, okay, well, I'm in my oxidative, I should be good forever. You're still getting tired. Okay, other things, fatigue, lactic acid builds up in your muscles. Somewhere around the 8-minute mark for me, I know that my splits are going to get even worse, and they're going to approach 2 times with the original split time ones. That's a rule of thumb that I use. Because you don't have time, like every workout you do every day, you don't have time to sit there and strategize the whole thing. I usually use a rule of thumb. I know if I start right out the gate, it's like a minute and a half into it, and I'm like, okay, I just did a round, I'm ready to go. What should I expect I'm going to do my next round? I should expect a 50% jump in the amount of time. It's kind of a good rule of thumb in terms of energy system. Any questions? Am I completely lost? All right. You get tired. We said it. All right. Perceived effort. We talked about perceived effort and what it should be. Bottom line is that you should start off fairly light. Save that point where you've laid it all out on the line. You're dying on the floor until the very end. Okay. That's when you go.